You know, ever since Condition Overload came out, there was this huge discussion about what is the best primal weapon in Warframe, whether it be a secondary or a primary weapon. This, of course, was then exacerbated by Gun Edition Overload for primary weapons, whereby it became a huge thing about like which weapon do you want to use to make sure that your primary or secondary weapon does a lot of damage. In my personal opinion, I really like using the Scourge, but a lot of people would look to weapons like the Epitaph and something like the Kuvanukor. There is an alternative solution that allows you potentially to use whatever secondary weapon you like that is status heavy to basically be the strongest primal weapon in the game. Let's have a look at it. We're here in the Simulacrum with Mag. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill these two butchers so that my Condition Overload has begun. Alright, how much damage do I do against this Exo Gokstat officer? 30-odd thousand damage, 65-odd thousand damage, 100-something odd thousand damage on a red crit. But if I do this, $1 million damage on an orange crit. Yeah, 1 million damage on an orange crit. $1.5 million damage on an orange crit. Just like that. And keep in mind, this is a Synoid Gamma Core. 3 million damage on an orange crit. This is not a weapon that is famous for doing all of the status effects. But I made it do all of the status effects just like that. Let's have a look at what I've done to my Synoid Gamma Core to make it seemingly this powerful at being a primal weapon. This is what I've done to the Synoid Gamma Core. We have a build that does no damage. Thank goodness for that. I don't want it to be killing enemies. I want my Paris Prime to be the one that is killing those enemies because my Paris Prime is built to do tons and tons of damage. We have Secondary Encumber. On status effect, 24% chance to trigger a second random status effect. This is very important. This is why we've managed to get ourselves a more than 100% status chance, but I will explain in a second why we don't need to go any higher than 100%. We also have Fire Rate, mainly Fire Rate for the use of Lethal Torrent, through Anemic Agility, Gunslinger, and Lethal Torrent. We have Status Chance through Galv Shot and my 260-60s, which I've currently set to being Corrosive because my Paris Prime does a lot of viral procs anyway, so I don't need to do viral on my Synoid Gamma Core. We also have Perpetual Agony because why not? Additional status duration is a good idea, and I want my beam to be even longer. My Riven is here to give me extra status chance, and that's pretty much it. Secondary Encumber has this interesting stipulation where when you hit a status effect from that random status effect, the Secondary Encumber goes on a tiny internal cooldown. As a direct result of this tiny internal cooldown, you can't really do additional status effects through the use of explosive weapons, so that means this doesn't necessarily work as well on something like the Epitaph, and you can't do extra status effects on bouncing beams, which I believe the Atamos has, or additional multi-shot, or additional status chance shenanigans. That's why going above 100% is not necessary, but hitting 100% is pretty important. So that's why I've left my build like that. But as you can see, as a direct result of having that many status effects, any weapon with Condition Overload or Condition Overload will be doing a lot of damage. So that's going to be really good. You can pair that up with other things like Serration if you really want to, or potentially something like Longbow Sharp Shot, and you can be popping off big time. So, yeah. I like this. I like this a lot. I like being able to actually finally have a reason to use my Synoid Gamma Core. For the longest time, when I built my Synoid Gamma Core for damage, I never took it out. Why? Because I always had my bow. So, I never had an appreciation at all for secondary weapons. I kind of still don't, but I now have a much bigger appreciation for my Synoid Gamma Core. It now has a reason to exist and be used. Even though before I already liked using it just because it was hilarious to use it. Despite the fact that my Sinnoh Gamma Core doesn't do a whole lot of damage, if I somehow manage to get 2 kills, whether it be because, let's say, I stripped their armor and then just brute force killed them at the start, through the use of just a lot of headshot damage, if I manage to do that, the Sinnoh Gamma Core can also do some decent damage. Not amazing, but decent damage. So there is that as well. Maybe I might find myself a Sinnoh Gamma Core Riven that is maybe a little bit more on the status chance fire rate side. It's really just fire rate and potentially not having that negative magazine capacity. That might be what I would try to go for with my Sinnoh Gamma Core if I decide to roll my Rivens again. But otherwise, for the most part, this is absolutely perfectly fine. So at that point, I'm mainly reserving the use of my Sinnoh Gamma Core against enemies like Examai enemies, certain Examai enemies that are bloody difficult to kill in Steel Path, certain bosses, acolytes, those kinds of enemies that are generally tanky and will take more than 1 arrow to the head. Those are the kinds of enemies where I can absolutely pop off with Sinnoh Gamma Core, or whatever status weapon you decide to use, and thus just coat them in 10, 12 different elements. Because the great thing about something like Condition Overload and Condition Overload is you don't need all 10 stacks of, say, Blast. You just need 1. You might want to try and get all 10 stacks of your Corrosive and Viral procs if you manage to actually land on them, but, I mean, you honestly, like, you should be okay just having, like, a few stacks of those, and just make sure you have more variety of elements on an enemy, because then you can absolutely just destroy them in one fell swoop. Is this better than something like Kuva Nucor or Epitaph? In AoE solutions, probably not. But, I mean, in my experience anyway, against AoE shenanigans, when I'm not playing Steel Path level capping, which I normally am not doing anyway, I don't need that kind of AoE priming, because my bow is able to kill everything anyway. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Are you a secondary Encumber user? Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about it? This has been around actually since the Citrin days, because you can actually get it through the mirror defense. So this is not something super duper new. I mean, it is new-ish, but not super duper new. But it's good. It's very, very good. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye!